Yes, it is big and heavy, and very expensive, but still sales are guaranteed, as there is a group of photographers who will frown upon anything that is not a 1D. So let's take a look what this camera is all about. Build quality is exceptional. 1D looks and feels like a tank. It is incredibly rigid in hands. Camera is fully weather sealed and has a proven track of working even in the harshest environments. Heat, humidity, dust, freezing temperatures, war zones, 1D doesn't care. It simply works. On my kitchen scale it is just shy of 1.5 kilos. My 6D with grip and both batteries inserted is barely 1.2. 1D is visibly taller and burlier camera, and there are a few reasons for that. Heavy f2.8 zooms and telephoto primes balance better on a heavy body. It also handles better as tall grip rests on the entirety of your palm. Also, big body makes it easier to fit extensive weather sealing inside. Notice how all of the buttons on the camera have this black circle around them. These are rubber seals, deliberately made large and on the outside part of the chassis to prevent anything enter the camera. You won't find this level of protection on a 5D Mark IV. Body shape is superb and it feels perfect in hand. Controls are placed in easy reach. Buttons are big and have distinguishable feel when pressed. Two status LCDs have a familiar orange backlight. In addition, compared to the Mark II version, back buttons are also lit. Very useful for low-light shooting. Controls are in the same place like on preceding model, what allows easy transfer to new model, or even using them both at the same time. There is one major difference though. AF on button is now touch sensitive. In the dark you can see how sensor turns on when you touch it. Canon calls it smart controller. If you don't like it, you can turn it off altogether. When used, sensitivity can be adjusted in 5 steps. There is also a limited functionality setting, which is maybe best while you are still adjusting to using it. In custom controls, set the smart controller to off position. Now it is disabled by default, but once you press focus selection button on the far right camera corner, smart controller will become active. The underlying idea is to use same button for focus point movement as the one that activates it. That is a faster option than to move finger from joystick to AF on button. Joystick is of course still here for those who prefer it. As for touch sensitive AF on button, I generally like it, but it takes some time to adjust using it. My main issue was when I placed my thumb over it, I would do that in a sliding way, what was registered like I want to move focus point so the camera would move it, even when I didn't want that. Still, I do like this feature and think in some use cases is absolutely great. Let's say you have multiple people in front of you and need to quickly move focus point between their faces. This is way faster than using joystick and moving finger to AF on button each time. Or shooting a pack of wild animals which are all at different distance. It requires some time to adjust both button sensitivity and myself, but once mastered, this could be a superb feature. It also works for live view. Beside the focus point movement, it can be used in playback to quickly move magnified part of the frame. Great stuff. 20 megapixels on full frame might sound a bit low for 2020, but this camera is made for specific users and for them 20 is plenty. Large pixels allow great low light performance and relatively small files, which will be easy to handle in the field. Both editing and upload will be faster. ISO has a native range from 100 to 102,400. It is possible to select extended range, low ISO 50 and high ISO up to 819,000. Auto ISO control is the same as for other EOS cameras. Auto range can be limited and minimum shutter speed can be set manually or left for camera to choose according to the lens used. As for image quality, it is pretty much perfect. Even the JPEGs straight out of the camera look impressive. Detailed but not over-sharpened, with accurate colors and can be adjusted in camera to show just the needed amount of shadow detail. This is very important for journalism and pro-level sport, as you often need to send images to editorial as soon as possible. RAW files have plenty of headroom both in shadow and highlight to recover. Sorry about a bit depressive samples, but I used this camera in the middle of COVID-19 stay-at-home restrictions, and on top of that we had an earthquake here at the same time in Zagreb, so there wasn't much to photograph at the given moment. For high ISO I compared it with my 6D and got surprised. Canon really did a good job with the 6D 8 years ago. I am convinced they made that camera way better than they intended. 1DX is better, but not by much. Up to ISO 6400 I wouldn't even bother looking at what ISO value I'm in. 12K shows a bit of noise but is perfectly usable, as is 25600. 51 and 102,000 are more of an emergency values. I wouldn't use them if not really needed. Those of you with half decent set of eyes immediately noticed different color renderings, and that is something I was also confused by. This is caused by some discrepancy in how Adobe Camera Raw renders images and affects many Canon cameras in the last few years. Here's the same image converted both in ACR and DPP. You can easily see color information is there. It is just Adobe does a bad job at reading it. I am not sure where the problem lies, but with every day I am progressively more inclined to ditch Adobe altogether with entire Windows platform and go full Penguin, but that's a story for another video. Raw dynamic range shows significant improvement over my 6D though, way less noise and significantly better details. If I am not mistaken, 1DX Mark III is the first camera ever to support this format. Shortly explained, HEIF promises higher image quality and/or smaller file size compared to JPEG. But there are some shortcomings with HEIF at this point. Firstly, very few programs support it. Photoshop CC does not recognize it and most internet browsers as well. Press organizations usually do not accept anything but JPEG. Secondly, you actually need HDR monitor to view it properly. Even the LCD on the back of the 1D Mark III is not HDR, so you can only see simulated preview. In theory, HEIF could be a great step forward for image quality, but at this moment I see no point using it. If you want ultimate image quality, there is RAW to be edited however you like. If you want versatility and small files, there is JPEG. HEIF at this point needs to be manipulated to make use of, so why bother? Mark III tops out at 5.5K resolution at 60 frames per second, 12-bit and in RAW format. Sounds pretty serious. So are the file sizes. I used 64GB card, which can hold only around 3 minutes of maximum quality video. I don't even want to think what kind of PC is needed to edit that footage. My couldn't even play it. But don't worry, there's a number of lower resolution, frame rate and bitrate options. Sadly, some limitations apply. For example, there is no wonderful dual pixel autofocus in most 4K settings at 50 and 60 FPS. That's a shame. At least camera remembers different shooting modes for video and still images, and that includes different ISO settings as well as white balance. Video quality is pretty much perfect, very detailed with familiar great Canon colors. Focusing system is one of the main selling points of the 1DX Mark III. It is significantly upgraded compared with the Mark II and now has 191 focus points, 155 for which are cross-type. The new focusing system is capable of recognizing faces even when shooting through the optical viewfinder, and it works impressively. Here is an example. Notice how when I move the camera, 1DX keep picking focus points around the person's eyes. Superb stuff. With multiple faces in the frame, camera will prioritize the closer one. In the dark, it is sensitive to -4 EV, what is a market-leading result. My 6D has that one central point which goes to -3 EV, and I thought that was impressive. Yet 1DX can focus and does so accurately. In light so low, 6D just keeps on hunting and is unable to focus at all. Even more, system works at f8, so you can easily use various lens and teleconverter combinations. But the story does not end here. In live view, 1DX is sensitive to -6 EV and focuses without issues in light so low my eyes don't see anything, nor does the face detect system. This is truly a sign of things to come and clearly shows mirrorless technology is finally ready to outperform DSLR in all aspects. Oh, and yes, dual pixel works at f11. As for focus point configuration and subject tracking, there are so many options a separate video could be made. I tried it as much as possible during COVID virus restrictions and it seems to work flawlessly. Optical viewfinder is a must-have on this camera, electronic would not do. Absolutely no lag for any reason is needed and optical viewfinder does not use battery. Typical users of 1DX might spend hours in standby just waiting for something to happen, and when it does, camera must be able to fire immediately, with no delay waiting for live view or EVF to engage. It is big and bright, a real joy to use. There are options to display various informations like drive and shooting modes, focus points, grid, digital level indicator, and so on. Useful feature is when you press ISO button, beside ISO adjustment you get a digital clock on the left side in viewfinder. This switch on the side engages viewfinder cover that protects it from stray light during long exposures. 3.2 inches diagonal and 2.1 million dots are plenty. LCD is beautiful, sharp with realistic colors and perfect viewing angles. It is touch sensitive, supports multi-touch and is active for all camera functions. Playback, menus, focus points, everything. Nothing new here. In my opinion, Canon still has the best menu system on the market. Color-coded tabs, fast in use, logical layout, customizable user tabs, just perfect. It works with touch LCD, joystick and twin dials. If you want to switch tabs quickly, just press the Q button. Shutter is rated to 500,000 cycles, but usually lasts more. This camera shoots maximum of 16 frames per second with autofocus, which is beyond impressive for mechanical shutter and mirror assembly. In live view, with electronic shutter, it goes up to 20 frames per second, also with autofocus. Burst rate is adjustable individually for every burst drive setting. Fully silent electronic shutter is available in live view mode and it works great just like we are used to on mirrorless cameras. There is no screen blackout while shooting bursts with electronic shutter, only a brief flickering when the images are taken, so it is possible to follow a moving subject. And now here is some ASMR. Buffer is big enough for 94 images in RAW and basically unlimited for JPEG. Spot metering can be linked to active AF point but doesn't need to. GPS is built in and can really be handy for geotagging images. There is a number of options including GPS logger. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth and Gigabit Ethernet connector are present, so there's a lot of options to get files straight from the camera to other devices or directly to FTP server, what is a usual practice in high-level sport venues. Left side has a full range of connectors like USB 3.1 Type-C, mini HDMI, microphone input, headphones output and so on. LPE19 battery pack is the same from 1DX Mark II. Everything else in the camera is new though, so the battery lasts well over 2000 shots with optical finder and around 600 in live view. This varies greatly depending on the usage pattern, but either way prolonged shooting sessions will be possible. Twin battery charger is delivered with the camera. Charging inside the camera or supplying power over USB-C is not possible. I tried it anyway, but no luck. Two CF Express card slots are available. These cards are currently a bit pricey but can operate at speeds SD and compact flash cards cannot dream of. There is a range of options how to use them: backup, different file types on different cards, and so on. Altogether, 1DX Mark III is a ruthless machine. Ergonomics, image quality and focusing are perfect. 20 megapixel sensor is just about right for sport and photojournalism. Optical viewfinder is still preferred among typical 1D users, and big body balance is great with huge telephoto lenses. I know it is hard to justify this camera with words. It is one of those products you need to use in the field for a few days to understand what it's all about. Professionals who need it will simply buy it, no questions asked. They know what they are getting. As for amateurs, well, if you can live with the size and weight and have this kind of money, why the hell not? I mean, there are people who spend more on a Saturday night out. But what I found most interesting about the Mark III is the way it behaves in live view mode. It feels like a fully fledged mirrorless camera, just without the EVF. Some things are even better in live view, namely low light single focus mode. This thing is capable of focusing on stuff I don't even see with my own eyes. I'm sure we will see this technology in the upcoming R5 and R6, probably even a step further, so very interesting times are ahead. That's all for this review. If you have a question, feel free to ask me in the comment section below. For those of you in Croatia, you can find me in real life in Anigota store where I work, and those of you from other countries, please use Amazon affiliate link as I get a small commission from every purchase. Thanks for watching.